Hey everyone, welcome to Fast Forward, the podcast about real conversations, not highlight reels. We go beyond tactics and talk about the people behind the businesses, how they think, what drives them, how they adapt, and how they build. This is a space for honest stories from real founders. Today, I'm joined by Eric Blankenship, the founder and president of MindStone Marketing. Eric, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So you've built a career that spans sports, hospitality, agency work, and now leadership as a fractional CMO. What part of your story shaped your approach to marketing leadership the most?
That's a good question. I really think because I've been in that sports and entertainment industry for such a large part of my career, the thing that kind of shaped me the most, especially early on, was making sure that we're leaving no stone unturned. I have found that there's never any one answer for anything. There's not one solution for everything. Because if there were, it'd be really tough to do, right? It'd be really tough to find that one thing that really matters sometimes. So a lot of times it's, just continuing to find different solutions, adapt them, evolve them, and figure out a way to make it work for you.
Right. Yeah, staying nimble and trusting your approach are two things that you got to stay aware of no matter what.
For sure. For sure.
You describe yourself with three powerful words, and you talk about being a husband, father, and friend as well. But you are passionate, creative, and fearless. Where did those traits come from, and how have they shown up during the biggest points in your career and in your life?
Yeah. You know what? I think it probably started with the passion piece, right? Because I think it's important to find what matters most to you. What are you passionate about? And for me, early on, I wanted to be an architect and I wanted to design sports facilities and stadiums and baseball fields and golf courses and everything in between. And that's what I was really passionate about for a large part of my life, at least early on. That, not to go down a tangent, but that changed right around when I was in college, majoring in marketing, or sorry, majoring in architecture. And then I kind of flipped my major to marketing, but I wanted to stay in the sports and entertainment space. So I realized that's what I was going to be passionate about, that sports and entertainment area of the world.
Mm.
So passion kind of fueled me at the beginning. Then when I finally got my opportunities in my career early on, creativity was something that as a marketing person you had to have, right? Because I jokingly say this sometimes, but your operations people aren't usually the most creative, right? Your finance people aren't usually the most creative, right? Now they may be creative within their own spaces, but when you're in
Mhm.
marketing, that's when you have a real opportunity to be creative. But it's also a necessity, right? If you're not creative and you're a marketing person, I don't know what you're doing, right? That's kind of what you need that. The fearless approach, I give a lot of credit to not only my leaders that I've had throughout my career, but even my team members, right? Being fearless, knowing that it's okay to make a mistake as long as you learn from it and grow from it, and then you'll be better off from it. No fear at all in terms of trying something. If it doesn't work, more than likely it's not the end of the world, right? I always used to joke with, my teammates and even, people within my own department that, you know, we're not, doing brain surgery. We're not putting a man on the moon. We're not trying to cure cancer. We're not. We're marketing. We're actually marketing fun, to be blunt about it, right? So what we're doing isn't life or death. So it's okay to take risks. It's okay to take chances, and I think the one thing I always instilled in all the people I've ever, managed was, I encourage the mistakes. Just learn from it and don't do it again, right? If you can do those two things, you're always growing.
100%. Sometimes the best way to learn it is through failure, and
Absolutely. I've learned a lot.
as have I. It's the lessons that actually stick with you when you experience some type of failure, and being fearless is really required to be leading the way in any industry or even finding your own success as an entrepreneur. It's important to remember that if something doesn't work, it's okay.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's a good lesson to learn for anyone, um, especially entrepreneurs. You've managed teams, mentored leaders, and helped some of the most visible organizations in sports and entertainment grow. What have you learned about leading humans, not just managing performance?
Yeah, I think I learned this early on, and it's exactly what you kind of alluded to. Everyone's their own person, and I realized that equal and fair aren't the same. So while it was very important for me to be fair with all my team members, not everyone could be treated equally in regards to how I treat them. Some people needed different motivation. Some people needed different catalysts, right? So it's finding that balance between making sure you're fair, right? But knowing that you need to manage certain people differently, especially when you're trying to get something out of them, but also when you're trying to get the most out of them for themselves, right? So that was always something that I had to do, is just really know my team members, not just work with them. It was important to actually know them, what makes them tick, who they are, what they do, what's important to them.
Right. Because as a business, you want to get the most out of your employees, but you also want to focus on the human side of it, and understanding them on a personal level helps them feel like they have a place in the agency, and it helps them focus on things that actually matter, not the miscellaneous items on the externally.
Yep, for sure.
For sure. Okay, so marketing today can feel noisy and transactional, but your work, especially with the Lightning and in hospitality, has always emphasized emotional connection. What do most companies misunderstand about storytelling, brand, and the actual psychology behind why people care?
Yeah, so it's funny. Your question is a little bit of my answer. So a lot of times I'll meet with a client or a prospect, and we'll get into a conversation about their brand. And many times I'm working with other startups, small business, maybe medium-sized business. And to be fair, they are so focused on the business, the operation side, the finance side, delivering the
Right.
product or service, which is obviously very important. The marketing and the brand side isn't always something that's a major focus. It's something that I think kind of happens organically, but there's not always a significant amount of thought behind it. So it's funny. So sometimes I ask, a simple question, and you kind of alluded to it. Who you are, what you do, more than likely isn't that different from 100 other companies, right? Unless you happen to have something that is so unique, someone else is probably doing it, and quite possibly doing it well. So I lean on, why do you matter? What makes you special? What makes you different? What's your secret sauce? Why should anyone care? And then when we lean in on that, that helps develop what that story or that narrative is to why someone should do business with you. And then you build that story, that narrative, and make sure it's that consistently communicated through every single platform they have. And that's the thing that's always a challenge, right? Because that consistency matters. I'll give you a little bit of example. I was working with this one
Yeah.
CEO, small company, but they probably had, let's say, 20, 30 employees. And we were talking about the brand, um, and I asked them a question. I'm like, how would you describe your business in 3 words? What are the 3 words that would describe your business? He told me those 3 words. Great, great words. I'm like, okay, what would happen if we asked your team members to describe this business in 3 words? What would they say? Would they be similar? Would they be different? Will they be better? Will they be worse? He was very convinced that they would be very close to what he said. So we sent out a survey, asked people. You know what? It wasn't. Now, to be fair, some words were great, fantastic. Some were okay, but it gave him perspective to know that his perspective isn't the only perspective. And if people within his own organization aren't all on the same page about what his brand stands for, how would you ever expect someone in the wild to have the same thoughts and feelings about your brand, right? So it's a little eye opening. And that's why I said it really starts internally. And that's where we get to the whole conversation of culture. Culture matters, right? That's going to be the foundation for your brand, because you can think your brand is one thing. And if it isn't in the real world, then it isn't, right? That's what the
Mm.
reality is. So a lot of times that's how our conversations go sometimes. Sometimes you got to take a step back before you can take 1 or 2 steps forward.
Right. And when you say culture, you mean how their brand is received, that culture?
Yeah, almost like, so I'll give you an example. When I was with the Tampa Bay Lightning,
Mhm.
and for those
Mhm.
of the audience that on
It's
aren't,
a great franchise.
what's that?
It's a great
It
franchise.
is. I'm very fortunate.
They've won so much.
Unbelievable organization, but it's a hockey team, right? And the average person, when you talk about the Lightning, will probably say, oh, that's the hockey team. And you know what? They're not wrong. They are the hockey team. However, if you were to talk to diehard fans, or maybe not even diehard might be a little too extreme. If you were to talk to someone who's more than a casual fan, tell me about the Lightning. They more than likely will use words like hockey for sure, but they'll use words like community and engagement, youth hockey, charity, the live events, the game atmosphere, right? The winning culture that they have. Like they'll use all these other words to describe that organization. I promise you, internally, we were all saying the same words. We not only said those words, we believe those words because we, in essence, were ambassadors of the brand. So every time we would have conversations with someone about the Lightning, more than likely words like that would organically, and that's because our internal culture believed it. So that when we were
Mm,
in the market, when we were at that barbecue on a Sunday afternoon, or we were at Thanksgiving dinner, or we were at the reception after church, and we were talking about our organization, we were using those words. Those were kind of like the
mm,
pillars of our brand. And you know what? The people we talk to now know those words, and then they would communicate what is the Tampa Bay Lightning all about, right? So I think a lot of your brand really starts internally. It has. If you don't
mm.
believe it internally, I don't think you can expect anyone to believe it externally.
Right. That seems like something that could easily be overlooked by many businesses because they're all concerned about how others are interpreting their brand as opposed to what are we internally in terms of culture and how we do day-to-day business and how is that message being portrayed to the external, whatever it may be, potential clients, any branding, all of it has to work cohesively with how you think of
For
yourself.
sure. I mean, culture matters. It does. It matters. And I've never seen a better example of how much it matters than when I was with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Definitely. Yeah, it's important to think of all of those different ways in which your culture is created. So you've posted insightfully about AI
Yes.
that it won't replace marketers, but it will replace bad marketing.
Yes, yes. And remember, I'm biased in saying that because I'm a marketing person. So I think I kind of have to at least lean that direction.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with what you input, right?
Yes. For now, anyway.
For now, how do you see AI's role evolving inside creative industries, and what parts of the job remain uniquely human?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's interesting. Like think back. Well, I think if we go back 3 years ago,
3 years,
ChatGPT isn't even a thing,
right?
publicly anyway, right? That's all it is,
Sure,
3 years. So if you think about how far we've come in 3 years,
it's wild.
and think about this, more than likely 3 years from now, it will be exponentially greater than what it is now.
No way to predict the
It's
future.
unbelievable. It really is. So I'll give you a little slice of how, I'm kind of interacting with, ChatGPT from a client perspective. I use it
Sure.
personally and professionally within some of the things I'm doing. Absolutely. And by no means am I an expert in any way, shape, or form. But it's interesting because, so again, I have clients that they know what AI stands for, believe they should be using AI. But beyond that, they don't know what to do. Like in their mind, if I have a client that uses ChatGPT just to screw around with sometimes, that might be it. That might be all they're doing. Because I think especially marketers, we're in the industry. AI is something that we're talking about or using every day, more than likely in some way, shape, or form. But I may have a client that sells t-shirts and hats and cups. And they're not using AI at all, right? Because they've never used it. They they know what it is. They believe they should use it, but it's not like they can just go to an AI store and buy something and plug it in. Like they don't know what to do with AI in regards to how's it going to impact my business? How can I implement an AI agent to either save time or save money or both? Like they don't know what to do. So
Mhm.
a lot of what I've been doing currently is trying to connect some of those dots, right? Here's an AI agent or here's an application that I think can save you 6 hours of time a week. What's that worth to you? And let's find a way to implement that. because the good news is the way I'm working with clients now, I build a rapport, a relationship, and trust with some of the different things I am implementing with them. So now I have an opportunity to say, you know what? I think AI can help you in this regard. So it gives me a little bit of an in to try and get them down that path. But full disclosure, it's not an easy path because some of them are just used to doing
Mhm.
what they've been doing for so long. And in their mind, it works. What they're doing works. Why mess with it? AI is, again, it's almost like a foreign language, right? To some of my clients,
Mhm.
they're just not as tech savvy. And that's okay because I look at that as an opportunity, and maybe even a little bit of low hanging fruit there too.
No question. I've also realized that a lot of these older business, not older, but businesses that have been around that aren't as quick to adopt, a lot of times their processes are manual. So it's much harder to apply AI when you don't have any type of automation within the system
Yep.
already. It's a whole process of, in a sense, it's good because it's taking manual processes and now because of AI, we're forced to kind of reconsider this because we know that manual in everything that you do is just not it's not the right way to go about it. And because of the invention of AI, automation is now becoming a huge
Yeah.
player.
Yeah. I mean, it will be
So
crazy to think where we are. I mean, I even think short term, 1 year, I mean, if you think about 5 or 10, I mean, we're in a different world.
totally.
But I think 1 or 2 years, I mean, it seems like nothing. And I think things are going to dramatically change, within those, couple years. Even from, social media, as important as social media is right now, a lot of it is AI, a lot of it. Right. And it continues to go that
Oh,
direction.
yeah.
And it's interesting because you can spot some of it, right? You can absolutely spot it.
Mm.
And then, like, I have a client who told me this. They have a real person doing social media right now. And I'm not going to say it's a hassle, but it's another task of doing social media. Their mindset is if they can get social media automated using AI and it comes off 80% authentic, like it kind of sort of sounds like a real person, they're okay with that. They're okay with that trade-off of not having to deal with it at all and just be 80% good enough, right? Now, what happens when that 80% becomes 85, 90, 95? All of a sudden, like, it's interesting. I think social media is going to be one of those industries that could be greatly affected with AI. I really think it's going to go that direction. You're going to still need people to implement it and maybe manage it and report on it, but even those things can be automated already. I don't know how it's going to be worth paying a really good, strong social media person, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 grand when AI can get you mostly the way there.
For a fraction of the time that needed, and the cost is,
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's getting better
nothing.
and better. It's not like it's terrible. I mean, it's better and better every day.
No question. You need to keep climbing the mountain of what's out there with AI, even if it's a steep hill
Yes.
to climb. If you don't start climbing now, there's no telling, how far you'll fall behind.
Yeah.
So, moving on from AI, you've rebuilt teams, moved industries, navigated pressure at the highest levels, and eventually launched your own company. What was the hardest chapter for you personally, and what did it teach you?
Boy, launching my own company. I mean, it's
Yeah,
hard. It sounds good and it sounds fun and exciting, and it is all of those things. But it's hard. It's a grind. I've been doing this. I've had my own company now for I just hit 5 years, so I guess that's a good sign. I'm still doing it. Um, but it's definitely hard and it's a grind. And it's funny. I had this conversation with someone. Might have been yesterday. There are some things I absolutely miss. And I guess I've realized this. I learned this, while being mostly on my own. I miss being part of something bigger than myself. The sports and entertainment world is that the spectacle
mm,
of that game or that concert or whatever it might be, that live event, right? Where 10, 15, 20, 30, 35,000 people come together from all different backgrounds and lifestyles and experiences, and they're there for one reason, right? There's something so much bigger than just yourself. I do miss that. And to be fair, I didn't know I'd miss it as much until you don't have it.
mhm,
So that's something I miss. The other thing I learned was I really, and it took me time, and I alluded to this earlier, I really miss and enjoyed coaching and mentoring and teaching and managing team members. I didn't realize that until after I see how many of them have gone on to bigger and better things. And knowing that I had just a small fraction of that part of their growth to get them to where they are, it's really fun to see. That's something I've definitely, I learned that I didn't think of it at the time, but it took time
Mhm.
to realize and then to see the fruits of some of those labor early on, right? So those are two things I kind of realized and even
Hmm. How do you supplement that nowadays, the lack of
yeah,
this?
so the good news is, my wife and I are fortunate. We have 2 younger kids. They're very active.
Nice.
Both of them play hockey. We have a boy and a girl. They both play hockey. One's in high school, one's still in middle school. So we're busy. I mean, it's a if you or anyone you know have kids, I mean, it is a full-time job. I don't know how anyone does more than 2 kids. 2 kids is a lot for us. But my wife and I are constantly driving these kids everywhere, but it's fun. Like, I don't miss anything anymore. To be fair, when I was in sports entertainment and it was 50, 60, 70 hours a week, nights, weekends, and holidays, and it was awesome and it was fun, and that's what it was. It was getting to a point where I was gonna miss stuff. That was one of the factors, a big
Mm,
factor for me looking to kinda get out of that and move on to something different to where I kinda control my own destiny a little bit. I still work a lot now, I just
mhm,
work differently. I work at different times and different days and stuff like that, so I can manipulate the schedule way more. So that
right.
void was quickly filled up with our kids, which is perfect. That's what I was kinda hoping would happen, and that's what's happened.
That's the perfect landing ground for leaving that type of organization with all of the coaching and mentorship that you had, and now you can put all that energy into your own young kids. That's really cool. So if we fast forward 3 to 5 years, how do you see the intersection of creativity, marketing, AI, and leadership evolving? Do you think it will separate companies that thrive from the ones that fade?
Yeah, I think I lean toward some of what your insights were. If you're not using AI now, you're getting further behind every single day. You fast forward 3 to 5 years, and you might not only be behind, you might not exist. And that's kinda harsh and blunt, but I do think AI isn't slowing down. No one's gonna hit the red
Mhm.
button and stop. It's going faster and faster and faster. As advanced as we think it is today, I'm not naive enough to believe that it's not exponentially more advanced behind the scenes already. We just haven't seen it yet.
Sure.
I don't believe we're getting the first run test of AI on a daily basis.
No, you're
Yeah,
right.
it's
It's
way
so
more
true.
advanced than we even think it is already. So that's exponentially, right? I think the one piece of the puzzle I think matters, and again, I'm biased in saying this because I'm hoping and leaning on this, is that I think human interaction still matters. I still have clients that they would rather meet in person than have a phone call, and that's great. To be fair, I would rather meet in person over a phone call or a Zoom call or anything like that. So I think those interactions still matter. And I don't foresee that changing because I think as people get more disconnected from people, from others, I think they will kind of almost instinctively gravitate toward more human interaction. So I think there's still going to be a place for that. It's funny. One of the things that I've always pounded into people that I've managed and mentored is the value of a relationship. Everyone has contacts. Contacts are fine. They can be great, but relationships matter. And relationships are exponentially better than just a contact. So I think continuing to build relationships, strengthen relationships, and even protecting those relationships, I think that matters today. I think it mattered yesterday, and I think it'll matter tomorrow.
And in some cases, maybe even more than it used to because of our increased usage of digital services. I think instinctively, like you said, I think humans will instinctively realize that without each other, none of this even makes any sense at
Yeah,
all. So I think it has the potential to kind of turn us around because of it and help us realize that, biologically we need each other.
yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, for people who want to learn from you, work with you, or follow your insights on marketing, where can they find you?
Yeah, the easiest place is, I'm on X at Blankenship. I've been on X for a long time, but you can
Nice.
easily find me on LinkedIn as well. I'm pretty active on both those platforms for the most part.
Cool. Well, it's been a pleasure, Eric. Thanks for coming on. It's been really good to get to know you and learn about your business and your
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Okay. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Stay tuned for more episodes from the Fast Forward podcast every Friday.